I'm here to ask you to send money, and I want to tell you why it's important. This address will come up again at the end. There is a piece of paper on all of the tables, several pieces of paper, that give instructions on how to chip in to support our legal appeal. The checks can go to Mark Bobrowski, who will be helping our causes in other ways, I believe. And if you have any questions, send email to me, Mike Hawley, at that address. Let me be very quick about this. First, just a tiny bit of context to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're talking about that building, the ugly courthouse in East Cambridge, and it's now a matter for legal appeal. We're trying to get the permits that the planning board has issued revoked. There's a little shot of it from the air. I happen to live in the old church where that red arrow is. That makes me an aggrieved person and a butter. That's why I've been sucked into this appeal. Believe me, it's not something anybody would want to have to do. But I would tell you, I think this is a very important case, not just for what it is, not just for the city, but I think for the country. I think if we can right this government wrong, it will do a great service to the good people who put us here, these two characters, and to other people who follow us. James Green on the right was the first pastor in my church and also the first mayor of Cambridge. Andrew Craigie gave the little speck of land that became the founding nucleus of the neighborhood. It resulted in these sorts of buildings, charming 1800s, elegant buildings, brick and Quincy granite. That's a view of the Bullfinch Plaza. And to give you some context, here's East Cambridge from the air. You've got tens of millions of square feet of dense mid-rise and high-rise urban stuff belting around it. North Point, million-square-foot mall and galleria, Kendall Square, MIT to the right, and in the middle you have a quiet little residential oasis. Small houses zoned for 35 feet, little trees, young moms, families, kids, strollers, puppies. It's a neighborhood. And you've got these three little blocks shown in green, which are the founding nucleus. That chunk of land was basically given by Craigie for public use forever, and unfortunately we screwed it up. Now let me give you an analogy to tell you why this is important and to help you think maybe a little bit bigger. Three glamorous looking towers, 27 to 35 stories. They look pretty in an architectural rendering. They look kind of pretty in a photograph from a drone, but they're going to be torn down. It's more than $500 million of construction, probably $1 billion of real estate. It's going away. And the reason it's going away is because that's where it is. Those towers loom over the historic city of Istanbul. It's a World Heritage Site. There's the Blue Mosque, the Hagia Sophia, the Topkapi Palace. Those fuckers do not belong there. And the Supreme Court in Turkey last summer ruled they're going to be torn down. Okay? Now, if an enlightened city like Istanbul can succeed in tearing down three brand new towers valued at $1.5 billion, I'd like to think we can get rid of this mistake. Even Bob Healy said it would be best imploded. And by the way, I'm just waiting for the eye of Sauron to light up over it. So, look, the headline on this, then the punchline as to where we are in court, follow very quickly. I think the story is that two wrongs don't make a right. And in fact, it's more than two wrongs. It's three, four, a multitude of wrongs. The first wrong was this major league cock-up. It cost hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. The proposal was to put up a big tower, an enormous parking structure, bulldoze out across Cambridge Street. This was going to take 3 years, cost $15 million. It took 15 to 20 years. It cost more than $100 million in direct damage, hundreds of millions in indirect damage, and resulted in only a third of the thing being built. That's the only reason that we still have some of those charming historic buildings. But it's also why we wound up with this screwy juxtaposition, the evil tower next to the Bullfinch Courthouse. This is a wrong. It is a wrong idea to put, I'll need your indulgence, I'll be done in about 3 minutes. Wrong idea to park a roughly 300-foot tower with 2,000 corporate commuters in the middle of a quiet residential neighborhood. It's stupid. And so how do you get from one wrong to the second wrong? Well, you've got a screwy permitting process. You've got a permitting process that has never denied a permit of this sort, not in 20 years. It's a robotic, clunking arm. It's being misinformed by legal opinions from our city solicitor. Our city solicitor isn't even wrong. I mean, she's beyond wrong on some of these cases. here's what the case is going to come down to. This matter went into land court, which is somewhat academic, but it's the place to argue about the nuances of permitting. The crux of the argument is going to be, the reason this case will turn, whether or not this is in fact a legal non-conforming structure. Now, it sounds like a technicality. I'll try to make it very clear and simple for you. Typically, to become legally non-conforming, you first have to be legal and conforming. You can build a big warehouse legally, but over time zoning changes, it becomes more restrictive. You have a building that therefore becomes non-compliant, but legally so, legally non-conforming. It's grandfathered, if you will. And for that you get special permits to renovate some big old hulking warehouse and turn it into lofts and so forth. This building was never conforming. It was built under government immunity, which is like wearing a bulletproof vest. What that means is not that the law changes, it just means you cannot apply the law. The law goes into hibernation for a while. In particular, the building was built without public notice, without public permits, without building permits. It was built without adhering to fire code. It was built because the government is supreme, and it was most importantly built to 4 times what zoning, even in 1965, would have allowed. That prompted the chairman of the planning board in July to say, I'm not quoting exactly, but I'll give you the gist. He said, what's happening now is bad planning. Good planning would have been for the state to remove the building, remediate the site, then consult the city and ask what the correct zoning should be for that site. And on that basis, conduct a sale. And instead, the state is saying, we don't care about zoning, we built this thing, there it is, deal with it. And the developers, of course, are eager to lease every square inch of the thing. So the argument is that because this was not built in lawful conformity, and in fact, because it was built through spectacular corruption, people went to jail over this project, it's not a lawful building. It sounds ironic. It's a courthouse, but it's not a lawful building. And therefore, it's not a lawfully non-conforming structure. You need a variance. Here's the final analogy I'm going to give you just so you understand the legal nuance. You can go from special permit to special permit to special permit. As you've seen, it's like getting a rubber stamp. When you get a variance, those are like hen's teeth. They're exemptions. They require proving a hardship, unless you happen to be kayak wanting a bigger sign. Variances are hard to get, and once you get them, you can only continue to modify with a variance. Okay? You can't go back and get more rubber stamps in the form of special permits. In this case, immunity served as a de facto variance. It was a variance that nobody had to ask for. And to put it another way, a private company could have built that horrible building in the 1960s with a humdinger of a variance. And if that had been done, you'd have the same structure, but you could not now modify it with a special permit. So that's what the case turns on. What's happening is there are 5 plaintiffs. There were 2 appeals filed. They include Graham Gund, who's a wonderful architect. He has his practice in the Bullfinch building. Myself and Roger Summons, we live in the old church across the street. Maria Sicoccio, who's right here. Her family has lived here for roughly 100 years. And attorney Dan Hill, whose offices are in the Bullfinch building as well. He is a practicing attorney in the area of abutters' rights. And the judge has requested summary proceedings in mid-March. So the 2 sides are going to file legal briefs, and it's simply about this nonconformity question. There's to be a summary judgment hearing on April 7th. If the judge rules that this is not a legally non-conforming building, we run naked through the streets, because that basically rejects the permits. We win, the developer loses, the city and the state lose, and it's back to the drawing boards. If the judge rules the other way, I think that'd be unfortunate. That means the case then goes to trial. It takes several years, and we need everybody's contributions. This is important, as I said at the beginning, not just for us, not just for the city, but for the country. There are mistakes like this everywhere, but it's very rare that people have a chance to undo them, to fix them. I think we have that chance. It's not just a once-in-a-lifetime chance. It's a once-and-forever chance, and I'm emotional about that because it was Seth Teller who fought hard about this and gave us that line. It's a once-and-forever chance. It's important, and I hope you'll tell everybody you know to pitch in and at least be aware of it, because this is your battering ram. If we can't win this case, if we can't begin to fix this problem, I don't have much confidence that we can do very well on our other fronts. So thank you again.